Welcome to episode 97 of the At Bat Podcast presented by War Media, where we give you our thoughts on the latest Chicago baseball news, as well as take a trip around the league. I am Saul Rodriguez, joined as always by my co-host Miles Porter, as well as Gabe Wilkins, who has his own podcast, The State of Gabe. And of course, we are joined once again by the one and only Mike Hughes, who you can follow on TikTok at The Shy Kid. How you doing, Mike? How's everything, man?
Okay, I don't know. For whatever reason, God didn't want my face to be seen today. So, I went over the man once again, always prevailing, whether it's, demons or our Lord. Mike Hughes always prevails. So, I get it. Mr. Get It Done. You know what I mean? Mr. Make It Happen. So, how you doing, boy?
Yeah, hell yeah. Hey, today you could just say like a Bible verse. It'd be Mike 8:1. You know what I mean? It's like
Come on.
it's what it is. How you doing, Miles? How's everything, man?
Things are thinking we are out here living Earth. I don't know, man. I'm tired. I'm tired. So, but I'm good for seeing working baseball. I got nothing left in the tank. But we're here, coming off of a good win for the boys on the north side yesterday. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, and one more thing before I ask Gabe, like if with baseball, like how you had a pretty busy week. If you want to give us a little info on it.
Saul's been trying to get this for weeks.
If you're willing to,
No, for sure, bro. Yeah, I mean, I had a game on Sunday, and there was a scout from the Giants that was looking at me and a few other guys. I had a great game, man. I felt good. it was cool, and you never know if anything comes of it, but it's cool to have those opportunities, and like for me, being 27 and still playing at a competitive level, that's like the most important thing right now. Like it's just like simply that opportunity was just incredible. So I'm just grateful for it, man. It was really cool.
Forget
hell
Miles
yeah,
is
hell yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah,
I do. He looks so young.
I know, for real. I forget the other way
So,
around too. I forget that Mike's a baby, bro. Mike's 12. Did you guys know that?
Hey, yo! I am 12. I am 12. He's got documentation.
How's everything going, Gabe? How you feeling, man?
I can't complain. I mean, as far as baseball days right now, I've had better days, but outside of that, I really can't complain, man. Trade deadline didn't live up to the hyper expectation that I thought it would, but
yep.
Nevertheless, quite a few moves were made. It just remains to be seen who are the real contenders compared to the teams that we think are contenders but really ain't.
Yeah, I know. That's we were talking about before we came on is like the trade deadline was hyped up and it was nothing like we expected it to be. And like I told you, I had some friends. Yeah, I had some friends that are like the third wild card is kind of ruining the trade deadline and all that. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll talk about it. And the crazy part is that I was looking at the White Sox record. I think the last two episodes we've done, they haven't won a game in that span. Like it's crazy. Like
it's crazy. I was at the last game that they won.
man, you were there for
the day after my birthday.
Oh man,
Junior hit a home run. It was a fastball straight down the middle with two outs, and Vaughn was on base, and that's what won him the game. And that was That was the same game as Kopech's immaculate inning. Fedde was the starting pitcher for the White Sox, and Fedde's no longer here, and nor is Kopech. That's how long it's been.
Hey Gabe, do you this is a real question before we start. Like, so let's say they get a dub. Let's say they get a dub tomorrow, whenever. Are you upset if the team celebrates on the field after that dub? Or do you want them to just go back to the locker room and just like, hey man, y'all shouldn't be celebrating this shit. It's bound to happen. You know what I mean? Like, cause I get it.
I'm not upset if they celebrate it, but I would hope that it would be a message in the locker room where guys say, okay, let's turn that one game into a string of games that we can win.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't be upset if they celebrated it, but I think they need to get accustomed to what winning feels like. So if celebrating it helps them get accustomed to it, fine, because they haven't really had too many times to take a winner's circle or lap around the mound after a game. A lot of them guys don't even know what it feels like. You hear Jonathan Cannon talk about how I've never been a part of something like this. You know what I'm saying? And it's baseball, and I'm not against celebrating it, but as long as you're not celebrating it as though you still don't have any work to do, you know, that's my problem, because you still playing with history, even if you get a win. You know, you still playing with a lot of history at stake.
Hey,
you gotta
a record's a record, Gabe. A record's a record. Take it.
No, history is history. I don't accept that type of record. Like I think about when the Orioles had lost 19 in a row, because I remember they came into Chicago as part of that stretch and the White Sox was beating their ass. I felt sorry for Baltimore. I'm not gonna lie, I did. I don't like saying that. Like, I got a friend that's a Detroit Pistons fan that had to live through that losing streak in the NBA this season, and I was like, how do you deal with this? Little did I know I was gonna be on the same side. So it's gonna show you how everybody get a turn.
It's gotten to the point too where they're officially a special on FanDuel. Like they have a little section now. You know, you can bet on when the White Sox will win the next game, and I
bet it's against the Cubs. I bet it's.
I was thinking that's the problem. See, now we're getting to the point now too where you don't want to lose to them, right? They're facing the Twins for 3. Most likely, the Twins are going to win all 3. They haven't beat the Twins this season.
One time.
Or one time.
The last time they won a game, it was against Minnesota.
Oh, okay, my fault. They got one win against the Royals and then one win against the Twins, and then So either way, that's crazy. They got one win against the Twins. Then they're playing the A's in Oakland, right?
Yep.
So that might open up. I hope it happens there, because then after that they face the Cubs.
And I definitely don't want it to last that long. If it lasts
I hope it doesn't, Gabe. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that'll be over 23 games.
I just regulated my emotions when it came to this team. Like, I just regulated them. I'm like in a namaste state now with the Cubs. I'm just like, this is who they are. This is what it's going to be. I was telling my girlfriend the other day, I was like, it's okay. We lost 2 games. It's fine. I'm great. I feel amazing. I'm just telling myself, it is what it is. No expectations.
I just say I'm an Iowa Cubs fan at this point. That's how I rock out.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, like that.
Sox fan, but I'm not as apathetic as some of my fellow White Sox peers are. But I'm at a point where I kind of understand their pain.
Yeah,
and I've become very numb to this experience, and this is some shit. I'll be honest with you, as a fan, I don't want to ever experience again.
Yeah, no, that's no fan should have to go through this. You know, it's atrocious.
I agree. No, especially that big of a losing streak. When you've never seen a winning streak that big.
And didn't they have an original 15-game losing streak?
Yeah, they've had they've had 2. Correct me if I'm wrong. They've had 2 15.
Yeah.
Or 2 losing
actually
streaks.
It was, I believe it ended at 14.
Maybe. Yeah, it ended at 14.
14 was the record. 17 is now is the longest losing streak in White Sox history.
You're just full of history this year, Gabe. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of this.
I mean, if you don't know the history of your organization, how you gonna sit up and
No. I just mean this season has just been so special for you for so many different reasons.
It's special.
It's special. It's pretty special.
This season
it's bad when you got to talk to your grandmother about it to explain to her that it's so bad.
Yeah.
Where the all-time record, like the White Sox have been above 500 since 1956 all time. At the current rate they're at, they're going to be below 500 for the first time since August of 1956. And to put that in perspective for you, my grandmother was 18 at the time. You know what I'm saying? Like, that shit is crazy to me, man.
Oh my God.
You know, especially when you hear the stories about like how in the 60s they had good teams, but they just couldn't overcome the Yankees, you know, because the World Series was predicated on who had the best record in the AL and NL and seasons in. It's like I've never seen nothing like this. And like I said, I damn sure don't want to see it again. And I'm really hoping that they do something about it, especially when the fan base has done everything and show their middle finger to them to let them know the displeasure that they have. And I can't tell them that they wrong for that, especially after having to endure what they endured to get to what was supposed to be one of the best eras in the history of the franchise in a long time.
LOL.
Yeah. My God. Hey, Mike, come on. Hey, Mike's bullying you, bro. That's bullying. I'm gonna have a bullying warning right here.
I'm used to it. The first person I ever had to flip off at a sporting event was a Cub. Hopefully it's the last.
Yeah.
Gabe, was it when you were like 11 or something? Just like saw somebody.
Hey,
I
don't be.
remember where I was, man. I was with my mom and my aunt, and they wasn't looking. And he said something to me that I didn't appreciate, and I flipped him off, and he was stunned.
Hey, don't be mad at me, man. Saul the one wearing a Kansas City Royal jersey right now. Don't think I ain't see it.
How do you know it's a Royal jersey?
I seen the
how do you know it's a Royal jersey?
It slipped a little bit. Let me pull that thing up. Pull that thing up. Let me see. Let me see.
Hey, there's a reason why. Let me explain myself, okay? So let's put it this way. And I mean, no offense to Gabe here in the Chicago White Sox, but if you really want to make money this year, anytime the White Sox are up in the game, you put money on the other team, and boom, you make money. It's free money. It's free money. It's free money.
Like I thought about it the other day. What if I put $1,000 every game, the last 17 games,
dude,
on the opposing team?
If you would have done that every single time, like you would make a bank. Like I know one of my friends made like in one day because he had multiple bets on it. Like I think he had like one before the game, a parlay, whatever, and then one during the game. And anyways, he ended up winning like $700 after that comeback with Bobby Witt, the Grand Slam. Mm-hmm. So it's Bobby Witt jersey. That's why I'm wearing this in honor of that.
That's why I was there yesterday. That's why I
have nothing against Bobby Witt Jr., even though what he did this series was a
monster. He's a monster.
What was that? Gabe, what was that one stat? It was like it was the first player with like 4 hits in 3 straight games against the White Sox since like Ty Cobb or something like that. It was something like that. It was. Yeah. I was like, what in the world? I was like, damn, like he's a beast. Like no other way to put it. Like he is. And you know what's crazy? And this is a topic for another episode. But like Bobby Witt could easily win MVP, and you know why? Because I know everybody's saying Aaron Judge, everybody's saying whatever. But the thing nobody's thinking about, I feel like, or nobody's talking about enough, is Aaron Judge and Soto are going to take votes from each other. So that's gonna open the door for a guy like Bobby Witt. So that
Bobby also does a little bit of everything too. To your point.
Yeah.
He's batting over 340. Like I saw that on the board, and my fantasy team is Bob and the Whalers. Like I already known about Bobby all year long. He's my franchise player. But like, damn, like really, like when you really look at it, I saw him swipe a bag like it was nothing. I mean, the catcher on the Sox was just like, man, he got it. You know what I like? Like, what do you want from me? Like this guy has been a premier star. And by the way, really quick, because this is why I love talking to y'all, because we didn't even start the show yet. We just been bullying Gabe, and I love it.
Oh my god!
Don't worry, Gabe. You can bully us in like 5 minutes. But
true.
I just want to say Salvador Perez, and I'm sure Gabe has seen him in person before, but this was my first time seeing Salvador Perez in person. Holy tank! This guy is huge. He's like a behemoth. Like I swear you could put him at left guard on the Chicago Bears right now. That guy's a monster. Nate Davis, who? Salvador Perez, brother.
Yep. No, he's a unit.
I've seen him many times. I'm very familiar with Kansas City, Detroit, Cleveland, all the divisional foes.
They're a pretty big team in general, though. They got like Vinny, like they got the Pasquatch on there. He's gigantic. Then you got freaking like I think Melendez is pretty big, or does he just look? I think
not as big as Sal. I tell you that.
Bigger than me. Bigger than me.
Yeah, but they look. We'll get into the Orioles. We'll get into the a little bit and talk about because I have a question for you guys talking about Tarik Skubal. And what a deal they could make with the Orioles and stuff like that. But I had a coworker as well, tell me that he wouldn't be surprised if the Royals get deeper into the playoffs if they make it than the Orioles. So I'm like, I can see that too. I could really see that. I mean, we'll talk about that. Yeah, but we'll talk about that first. I want to start off because I know Miles might have to hit the road soon. So we'll talk about the Cubs first and break down like they actually had one of the biggest trades of the trade deadline. And in which they traded Christopher Morel, Hunter Biggie, Ty Johnson to the Rays for Isaac Paredes, and of course they also made a deal with the Yankees to trade Mark Leiter Jr. And so they basically bought and sold, not as much as a lot of people expected them to, but they did both. But that Morel deal has been the talk of Chicago. I feel like besides the White Sox stuff, because the White Sox stuff obviously has been it's been on the news a lot too, with Crochet staying, with Robert Jr. staying. So, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts because I do want to preface this by saying as well that at the end of the day, with this Christopher Morel trade, like I love Christopher Morel, awesome guy. I wish he would have found his potential with us, but unfortunately, didn't really do it. But like for me, at the end of the day, it was just as simple as a proven commodity and pure potential. And we got a guy who can hit right now. He's the same age, basically. Got him controlled until 2027. That's how I saw it. But I do understand the anger from some people because of like a guy like Christopher Morel and how good he was. The stuff I'm seeing online of just people like hating, like I actually have seen people hating on Paredes, even though he's a Cub now, which is crazy. Because like people keep saying, his power is not going to work at Wrigley and his blah, 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 this, and he's got minus 13 home runs the last 3. I don't care if he's going to hit how he's hitting. I don't care how many home runs he hits. It sounds crazy, but the guy can hit 20 home runs and I'll be happy. I don't care how many they didn't bring him here to be Aaron Judge. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't bring him here to be the home run hitter. He's a piece to a good team. He's not going to be the guy, but that's what I have to say about that trade. But I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on it, especially Miles. Like, how do you feel about this trade now? As you say, you're more in a namaste mode, but like in general, how do you feel about that deal as we sit here on August 1st?
I like that it is a move for the future, but it's also a move that significantly impacts the present as well. And Jed Hoyer is funny because he kind of came out and he was like, it was just funny how he like worded things. Like I said, I'm going to make moves for the future, and man, stop, bro. Don't do that. Don't act like you're like, see, guys, it's not. Don't do that, Jed. But I'm happy about it, man. A guy that's going to put the ball in play, hits for better. I hate saying this. Hits for better average than Christopher Morel. And has a better glove at third. So I think it is an upgrade. We have him for a few years. It's something that's very promising. It's a step in the right direction. I love Christopher Morel, man. I thought he was such a good kid, just in terms of the energy that he brought to the Cubs. One of the few players that had some sort of emotion, in my opinion, during those really dull times. Because that's one of the things that makes a good team. It's teams that have some sort of flair, some sort of attitude, teams that have a presence to them, and regardless of how he would strike out, sometimes there was still a smile that he brought to his clubhouse. So I'm gonna miss seeing that for sure. This is a good move. A step in the right direction. We'll see how well it ages, including, I know you'll get to it, but including the Mark Leiter Jr. trade as well. Fun fact: we have enough good prospects. Let's make some. Let's do a little bit more going forward in terms of trying to, take care of the near future and not the future way down the line. I think I'm more than satisfied with who we got in our farm system. Let's just add correctly going forward. This season is what it is at this point. So we'll see.
Yeah, and I think you're right, and I think that in the offseason we're going to find out how much Jed Hoyer is willing to do at this point, because like we've said, the leash is getting shorter and shorter, and the thing is, this free agency pool at the end of the season is not great. Juan Soto, I bet you, is going to re-sign with the Yankees. Not that the Cubs would even be willing to do it, because they asked Jed Hoyer this, I think it was yesterday, and he was talking about how he's very risk averse when it comes to those types of deals. And which I don't know if I necessarily agree with, but they're not going to go for that. So what's going to happen is you're going to have to trade those prospects, and now you're going to have to trade to get a star, because you have to get a star. You have to get a star. And I've said this before. I don't know if I said it on here, but I've said this before, is that I would be so down tonight to make a deal with Gabe and the White Sox for Crochet and Robert Jr. Like, I don't care about Robert Jr.'s injuries. I don't care about like whatever. Like, this dude, when he plays, is a superstar. I want that guy on my team. And then obviously we know what Crochet is. Like, that's the type of deal that I hope the Cubs do make, because you can't mess around anymore. Like, you're getting to a point where you don't want to end up like, like for example, the Tigers, like I keep mentioning, but like I feel like they feel their rebuild is over with, and like they're considering they have all options on the table. So, but I want to ask Mike because I know Mike's brought up a good point, which is like this deal could end up being the Hunter Biggie deal because of how good he is and how good the Rays are in like making pitchers, making players and into better than they actually are or than they were, I should say. But Mike, how'd you feel about this trade, and then also just how you feel about Biggie and the rest?
Yeah, I mean, Isaac Paredes, I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I understand he went 0 for 4, I believe, in his first game as a Cub,
Yeah.
and that's unfortunate, especially when Christopher Morel was turned into Barry Bonds as soon as he stepped foot into Tampa Bay. But I do think the reality of the situation is both teams are going to win from this trade. Obviously, you have a cornerstone third baseman now for the foreseeable future. That gives you a lot of room to be able to trade away guys like BJ Murray, Matt Shaw, whoever you want to move, assumingly, maybe even a Nico Horner, who knows what you want to do there. But it gives you a lot of flexibility when it comes to trading away, like you said, for another premier star in the offseason or at some point next year. The big thing for me with Tampa is amazing at developing arms, just like Milwaukee. And I think Hunter Biggie is going to be much bigger of a move than Christopher Morel 2 to 3 years from now. I could see Hunter Biggie being a top 5 closer in baseball by 2026, 2027 because of the development of the Tampa Bay Rays. So I'm excited for him. I'm excited to see what he's going to be able to do. Now, Christopher Morel fits exactly what they're trying to do. Obviously they had a Christopher Morel-esque player just a year ago, but things happen, not to me or you guys, but things happen. And they had to kind of move things accordingly. And I did see one graphic that said certain individuals are the reason that Tyler Glasnow and Blake Snell and so many other players are no longer on the Tampa Bay Rays. And it's crazy thinking, they once had a $300 million man, and now they're trying to get Christopher Morel to see if they can make something happen. But I do believe that they can get the best out of Christopher Morel. I do believe that Hunter Biggie is going to look like the biggest piece of this move just a couple years from now. I'm excited about it. As far as Isaac, and I want to say Isaac with emphasis Isaac. Because I called him Isaac and people said I was an asshole. I had never heard it said prior to that.
It happens.
I am an Irish Italian man that went to Chicago public schools. I saw Isaac. I said Isaac. So, cry me a river. It's just one of those things for me, man, where I don't care what you did in Tampa. I don't care what happened anywhere else. Like, I want you to show up and show out. And you're rocking that 17 in the hot corner. And we all know what happened the last time we saw 17 in the hot corner. So, there's a lot of room there. If I see a first baseman on the Chicago Cubs repping 44, you better fucking earn it. Like, that's point blank period. Like, Gabe and I have spoken about this before. If any Bulls player ever wears number 1 again, you better be the next Michael Jordan, or I'm raising hell on Madison Street. So I'm excited about it. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because why not? I see a lot of people, like Saul said, I see a lot of people talking down on it, but it's like, why are you mad? Why are you upset? I mean, because what are you happy with right now? Like I said earlier, you have to give something to get something. The perfect comparison for me is it's 2016. You're rolling around. Do you want Addison Russell and Javier Baez, or do you want to still keep Starlin Castro, who is probably peaked out on where he's going to be, and rock out with that because he's a fan favorite? No, you put the best guy in position to have success. You're still going to go out and get a Ben Zobrist. You're still going to try to upgrade the best way you can. And again, love Starlin. Loved Castro on the Cubs organization, but the reality is sometimes it's time. And I think for a guy like Morel, and we've talked about this before about if Nico were to go to Seattle or if Nico were to go somewhere else, I think he would be in a better position because of the way the organization tries to use you. Like, listen, Nico Horner is not a franchise player. Nico Horner is not a top 2 option in your offense. Neither is Christopher Morel. Now, if you put Christopher Morel around a bunch of other bats who hit for contact and are able to get on base, their OPS, OBP, all that stuff is up, cool. Like, he's in a great position to have success. On this current team, that's not happening. So if you thought Christopher Morel was going to bat 270 on the year with 40 plus home runs, you just got the wrong guy. Like, you got to know your personnel. This team does not have that put together just quite yet. Obviously, to Saul's point, could have waited a little while to see Triantos come up, see a couple Owen Casey, see a couple guys who hit for power, hit for contact come up. but again, you have to do what's best for you in the foreseeable future. Here's an immediate upgrade in Isaac Paredes. Sorry. I'm figuring out still.
I got you. I can teach you more.
It happens, Mike.
Yeah.
I had to practice how to pronounce Giannis Antetokounmpo over 50 times before I would do his
name. I felt that.
My dad cannot say
I would practice it on my way on the red line to the studio. I was Giannis Antetokounmpo. Like I don't even say it like that. You know? I never like to butcher people's names. I get it, but it happens.
I hate it so much.
That's why Baseball Reference is my best friend. Every time I see a dude, I'm like, what the? I cannot pronounce it. Like, I just go Baseball Reference, and I'm like, all right, bet. Because trust me, I get you, Mike. Like, there's a lot of, especially in baseball, where there's a lot of like Latino names, or especially like I in soccer, there's so many names. Like, and the problem about soccer is that there's really not one place to find pronunciations. Baseball Reference, you got the MLB names.
Don't even get me started on hockey. So
oh my God.
I did not know how to say his name.
Oh, dude.
Yasiel Pugh?
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy. Yeah. Hockey's a different
It happens to the best of us, trust me.
Yeah, 100%.
Victor Wembanyama. I got that one pretty good. I got that one right away. I was like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
My dad was like, Miles, have you seen a Victor Way Your Mama? Victor Way Your Mama. Yeah, she's right there.
That's what he's saying to dudes, I'm sure, when he's dunking on them and shooting over them like from 40 feet out or whatever. But no, but and that's the thing too, is like, as you were saying about Paredes, I was like, yeah, he's he's got to earn that 17, and you're right. I mean, when I saw that, I was like, okay, that's a choice for sure to take the 17, but he's wearing it in Tampa Bay, so hopefully he's able to wear it and do work with us and all that. So he had a good game yesterday. Hopefully it turns into something, because I know he did have a bad July, but even with that, he still has a 790 OPS, which says a lot of where he was at. He's of course made the AL All-Star team. So, but Gabe, what are your thoughts on this deal from the outsider looking in?
I don't mind it for either side, because when I look at Isaac Paredes, he's a guy that kind of reminds me a little bit of Aramis Ramirez, although I would say Aramis Ramirez in his prime hit for a higher average than what Paredes has shown thus far. But just like from home run, RBI production, and what they are able to provide at the hot corner, I think he'd be a nice fit for what they're trying to build. He had a couple great years in Tampa Bay after Detroit gave up on him. And it's kind of funny, he ended up signing with the team that, or getting traded to the team that he originally signed with, when he was coming from Mexico back in 2015. So I guess that's kind of cool to see, on his behalf and for Cub fans. And as far as, with Tampa Bay is just one of those teams. Me personally, I don't think you really want to trade with them. I mean, you got Isaac Paredes, and hopefully, he works out, but like, Tampa Bay, man, from a player development standpoint, they just know how to get shit done. And they always target a certain guy, and you look at him and you be like, man, I don't know, but once he gets over there, he finds his footing. And Christian Morel, thus far, he's hit a home run in both of the games he's played. He looks like he's fitting right in very well. And I'm pretty sure playing in the Trop, in a dome environment where the ball can fly once you put good contact on it, I think he's going to put up big numbers there. It's just always been about with him, his fielding, and can he find a way to just, boost his average up a little bit to at least be somewhat more respectable than what it is. I guess I'm just kind of glad that he is gone, because it was a certain radio station that was always trying to publicize him as though he was the best player in the city, even though he had a personality that would make you think that if you didn't, watch a lot of baseball. And I know his personality and the way in which he played the game would be missed by the fans there. He was definitely a guy that stood out, no matter what team you root for or whatever. Right. But I think it's a trade that'll work well for both sides, honestly. And as for the Cubs, they weren't necessarily a buyer, but when you sell off a guy in this trade and you get a guy that's under contract for the next several years, got a little bit of pop in his bat and can hit a lot better, and you can plug him in a corner any given day of the week, I guess you take it.
Yeah, and Saul, you know, Gabe brings up a point that, and Miles, I want both of your opinions on it because both trade deadlines over the last 2 years, it seems like Jed is trying to right the wrongs of Theo Epstein because you bring back Jamer Candelario, now you're bringing back Isaac. What's up with do you think there's anything to that of like these are guys that Jed didn't want Theo to give up way back then, and now he's trying to get them back because he still saw potential in them? Like those are thoughts that like went through my head. Is like, man, bro, I wonder like if this was Jed's team throughout 2015 on, would we still have Jamer? Would we still have Eloy? Would we still have Cease? Because you know how he wants to hold on to these prospects. So the last two deadlines to only get guys back that we already had is pretty crazy to me.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't know. I mean, hey, look, with those two players at the time that they've been acquired, like Jamer, like he was good. I mean, last year, but this is good now. So I think I'd have a problem with it if like it was like if they weren't, the players they are. And Candelario is obviously, and I had a great season with Cincinnati, and I'm kind of glad we didn't re-sign him. But at the same time, like it is interesting though. I had to think about it like that from that perspective of like, he getting players that Theo traded away, because there are quite a few, and kind of and it is kind of not related, but when you were talking about the trade and how like you have to give up something to get something, I was thinking about when the Cubs traded for Aroldis Chapman and gave up Gleyber Torres, like people weren't happy about that one at the time. Like I remember people were like, "Are you Gleyber? Like really? Like we're blah 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 this and all that." And I was like, first of all, it ended up being worth it.
Yeah, I was lit. I was lit.
Yeah, thankfully it was worth it. I at the time I by no means was I mad about it because I'm like we needed a closer.
Yeah.
But I was also like, damn, like Gleyber looked really good. Like it'd be really cool to see him and Javi on the same team.
Sure.
And
that was when Addison Russell was a normal human being, though. At the same time, he came off All-Star year. You know, you had Zobrist, KB,
they were stacked.
There was no place for a guy.
No
me, I thought they were going to give up on Hap to get a guy like Aroldis Chapman. That's where I was at.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those things you gotta do. You gotta do what you gotta do, especially in that case. It was worth it. So, but Miles, what are your thoughts on Mike's thoughts on the players that they've gotten back?
I think that's a good way, like a good kind of like a good question, because I do believe that we're sort of seeing different overall. We're seeing very different styles of management when it comes to Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, where Theo in general was like, okay, well, I mean, we got to pay the guy. Let's do our best to pay the guy. It puts us in the financial hole down the line. Who cares? At least we won a World Series. At least we have the chance to win another World Series in the so-called near future. Jed Hoyer is like, no, hold on, wait, let's save the money. Let's save our prospects. and so clearly, I think there is a little bit of like a value difference when it comes to the prospects. So yeah, I mean, I never thought of it that way, but there is. I'll definitely say that I do see a difference in how they are going about this. One is a little more patient. The other one's like, hey man, we got the money. Let's just go get this dude and try to win this year or next year, and maybe add on to that. Well, Jed's like, well, we have to wait like 3 or 4 years. We could do that too. So
yeah, no, yeah, it's the strategies they're very similar, but yet so different, right? In the way that they handle things and the way that they react to things and all that. So that is definitely one thing.
Know why that is?
Go ahead.
Theo about winning World Series. That's where he bought in to do that.
Yeah.
Ed is more so cut out from like the architecture school.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Like Theo Epstein is no different than a Dave Dombrowski. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get that goal done, because when you bring me in to finish jobs.
Right.
That's what he was brought into, to orchestrate. Well, with the Cubs, is a little different. The Red Sox was already kind of built up a little bit, but like the Cubs, he had to build it up. But once he built it up to what he did, I have a World Series to win. So if I have to trade Gleyber Torres, who's one of my top prospects at the time, then damn it, I'm going to do it. I don't care whether you like it or not. We got to go or not.
I think it's time to also admit, Gabe, because I do got to dip soon, but I wanted to make one point. It's official. We can have the conversation. This is a safe space. I think the Cubs won the Jose Quintana trade. We get an NLCS out of it. We won a division a year. It was a great time. And what did you guys get out of it? 3 wild card appearances. That's tough. That's tough, brother. That's tough, brother. Hey, I'm just saying, Quintana pitched in an NLCS game, and Eloy
I
Jimenez.
mean, that's
I
cute,
mean,
but
he
you
watched
you
as
didn't
many
get
games
a
as
you
I did.
didn't get a ring to show for Quintana.
But at least I got somewhere, brother. At least I got
And that's
somewhere.
cute, but hey, that don't mean shit. At the end of the day, I mean, the Dodgers won that series and mopped y'all ass.
Hey, but when it's shit versus shit, you smell worse. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
I think we won. I think we won.
That's that Cubs delusion, young
I'm just
kids.
saying, NLCS
Look at that.
wild card appearance, lost to the A's, like could never be me, brother. That's
Hey, y'all done been there too. What you talking? I seen Cal Freeland. Yeah, wasn't that 2018?
I remember that.
Yeah.
I wasn't there.
God.
I wasn't there. See, that's
I
selective
remember that year.
something else.
I remember Javi and Nolan gave each other.
I remember.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I really remember Cal Freeland for.
Man, for real. That was what a duel that was. Though.
Seriously, though.
That was one of my favorite games.
I thought that was a coming out party. I was telling my friends,
Yep.
Colorado got a good picture.
They're like he's got the tattoo of the Denver skyline in his arm, like the mountains, and I'm like, oh, this is the ace of the Rockies' future. And,
exactly, man. Hey, y'all, and wasn't that the second loss in 2 days? Because y'all had a chance to win.
All right. Hey, Gabe, haven't you had 17 losses in a row? I'm sorry.
hey, you brought up the past, not I.
Hey, I'm bringing up the right here, right now, brother. That's what I'm bringing up.
You see how you would have changed the game.
If I was gonna bring up the past, I would say that in April and May you lost 15 in a row, but now you lost 17. I'm sorry, it was 14.
I gotta have my old man moment. See,
I'm sorry.
These youngsters.
Damn, old as hell.
Oh my God. Well,
Abe was 23 when they had that winning streak going on. That shit.
You funny.
Well, I don't want to point out that Gabe is one of the more mature White Sox fans that I know. like I know White Sox fans that would freak out.
Oh yeah, Gabe.
Right now,
Gabe is one of the most well-respected White Sox.
Don't take Mike.
Gabe does not feed into me, bro. I promise. He does not.
Don't take Mike to Bridgeport, because if I really I call the real Sox fans I know.
We can get down. We can be back of the yards right now. I'm not even tripping about it.
I know you ain't tripping.
We can get into it. We could get live.
I really like that. And your best work is a like that.
Better believe it, and you better believe it.
Hey, Mike. Well, with those fine words, then we'll send you off. Thanks for coming on, Mike. And of course, like I said, follow Mike on a TikTok, Shy Kid, as well as Give Us a Shot Network as well. Check out all his content on there. Thanks for coming on, man. We'll have you on another episode, my guy.
Guys, better fucking follow. I love you guys. I'll see you later. Bye, Gabe.
There's another thing too. Like that's a whole other episode of we could talk about too, is the fact that the type of fans there are, and the fans I'm talking about when they're talking about Smack About Paredes, those are meatball fans, and like there's tiers to fandom here, and we know where we stand, and you gotta be realistic. You can't you can't demand a lot in a certain way. It's like it's at the end of the day, it's a business. Unfortunately, you gotta like see it from that angle too, and see it from a long range, which is it's hard. It's not easy to do. I'm not saying it's easy to like look at everything through a certain lens, but being like, you know what, maybe it is better for my team that this happened, or maybe it is whatever, but we'll see. I know, Miles, you got to head out soon, but I did I want to ask before we go, was there any other deals that from the trade deadline that surprised you by any chance, Miles? Like anything that stood out, or anything that maybe you thought was going to happen, didn't happen, something like that?
I thought the Jack Flaherty trade was going to go through. That surprised me, but I believe Gabe, was it because of medical reasons?
Yeah.
I thought that's, I think that's, I mean, that's something that I saw, because I saw the Tigers moving him, but I was surprised it didn't go through. I really like this Jazz Chisholm to the Yankees story that's unfolding. I think this is one of the more interesting stories in baseball right now. When you think about, I can go on. Just we all know who Jazz Chisholm is. We know the comments that he made earlier this year during the podcast. Jazz has been no stranger to controversy or being in the spotlight for good and bad reasons. And now you have someone who is very flashy, and in an age where we are being told to be express ourselves, still sort of in the old ways of baseball, but we're moving in the right direction. I do believe it. But you're going to a team like the New York Yankees where they are very, very set on the old ways, and you have someone who has been known as a bit of a polarizing person coming to a very I know the word I'm looking for. I just don't know how to say it. There's a very well mannered traditional team. So we're off to a really good start. This is fun. I can't wait to see what it's like when he goes to Yankee Stadium as a Yankee. I'm really curious to see how he sort of sustains this performance over time. He's going to go through his ups and downs. Yankees fans are going to get on him. How is he going to handle that? Is he gonna go on Instagram or Twitter and start tweeting about it and doing all this other stuff, or is someone like Aaron Judge gonna help him sort of grow up a little bit, or not change who he is, but teach him sort of how to deal with some of these things? Veterans are gonna get on you. That doesn't mean that you shut down as a player. That whole story, I'm very, very intrigued in, and I really like Jazz Chisholm. I really do. I don't think he should have been on the cover of the show a few years ago or last year. But I think he's a really good ball player. So I am very curious to see how that unfolds. And I really want your guys' opinion about that as well. I'm curious to see. I also want to revisit this topic like in the off season, just to sort of assess it. That's just I'm very intrigued by that story because a lot of things can happen.
I am too. Because see, I know a lot of guys like Jazz Chisholm.
Yeah.
Away from the sports scene. And I know a lot of people like on social media, they're rigid in their ways, depending on their age and whatnot. And I've seen the comments about how they don't like the way he wears the belt with the uniform and the chains. And I'm like, man, in the 80s, Deion Sanders was doing that as a Yankee. He had dollar signs on his bats. Like, as long as he's performing and he's winning while he's performing, everything else takes care of itself. I'm curious to see how he's going to deal with that New York media because, as we know, it could be a you-know-what to keep it short. But I like the move. It was a move that was necessary and needed. But with Jazz, man, like, I know he's gonna rub some people the wrong way, but if you a fan that care about winning and winning only, you should want a guy like that in the locker room. And I think the veterans like Judge and Soto will be able to help protect them a little bit. It ain't like he gonna be the main face. He's gonna be a star amongst stars that are far bigger and greater than he's been thus far in his career. So I think it can work.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think. Like, I'll be honest, before this trade, when the murmurs were happening that he was going to go there, I was like, I don't know if it's going to be a good fit. But now seeing him in the uniform, seeing how he's playing, seeing how he's taking advantage of the moment, I'm like, no, this is not only good for the Yankees, but this is good for baseball. Because when we've talked about this on multiple episodes. And like, it's the thing is one of those things. It was kind of like, I don't want to compare it exactly to what with the Morel deal, but it was a lot like that, right? With Jazz Chisholm, his ceiling is really high. Like, this guy could be a bona fide superstar if he finds everything. If his talent gets there and everything. And we've seen spurts of it. I think it was maybe like the year that he was in or the year before that he was on the cover of the show where he was having an all-star caliber year, then got injured. So it was like we've seen the type of player he can be, and hopefully he can do it in New York because that's, not only are you being seen by, Yankees fans and the American League, but you're being seen by the world because it's the New York Yankees. So that's good for baseball. And I am rooting for him because that's, like I said, that the energy he brings and like, can you imagine that in a postseason game? Oh my goodness. Like, him hitting a bomb to the third deck at Yankee Stadium is going to be crazy. So I do hope that works out. And I want to see him in the playoffs and hopefully it works out there.
Do you guys think conversations had taken place beforehand, before he even stepped in the locker room? Do you think any conversation sort of took place, whether it was his agent or maybe players he knew that played for New York that were kind of just letting him know, hey, this is what they're expecting or whatever. Do you think there was any sort of conversations to somewhat prepare him, not change him, but like prepare him for playing for the Yankees?
Nah, not really. Not because when he came out, I still saw the same Jazz. It just was in a different uniform, and it stood out, with a New Jersey number. I think he still go
backwards,
yeah,
different color belt.
but
What's
the
up, Aaron Boone?
but the thing that kills me with it is that we have to have discussions about the old guard of baseball, and that to me has to change because we not going back to those times no more. And having followed a player once upon a time not too long ago on the South Side who was kind of like that, and I don't think I need to say his name, like it brings up bigger conversations that I think we need to have during the off season in baseball about how sometimes we have cultural problems around the game itself. And me and Miles have talked on this, little by little on shows and sprinkled it in there when these topics have come up. But yeah, I don't think he has really had that conversation yet. And I think in New York, it can work. I mean, hell, New York has had black ball players that are controversial before. Dating back to the Reggie Jackson. A lot of people ain't like Reggie, but when he performed in October, they loved him. And they grew to say, oh, he's a star. Had Candy for him or whatnot. If you win, it takes care of everything.
Yep. Yeah, that's exactly why all the going into another sport, but with Caleb Williams, like people want to talk about he's Hollywood this, he's Hollywood that, he paints his nails.
I just had a conversation with my friend about that, and he was like, there's just something about him, and I know he didn't mean it in that way, but I'm kind of like, well, me, I like to play little, like inquisitive investigative type. I'm like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah,
it's just something about him. I'm like, what you like the aura? He hasn't played a game yet or whatever. I'm like, oh, so we can't be confident.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We can't pull up the Hallis Hall with a little flash.
Exactly. That's what I tell people too, is like, he's passing all the tests so far. Like, I know that he hasn't played a game. I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to win 6 Super Bowls. I'm not saying that, but he's passing all the tests that a lot of players don't pass until now. It's all, you know what I'm saying? Like all the players like him. You had people talking about how, he's telling his teammates to clean up the locker rooms and all that stuff. Like, I mean, he's a kid. Like, there's no other way to put it.
Helps you with that. Because what is he known for? Hollywood entertainers.
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm like, we'll definitely get into that. Have they use that as a slight plug for the Bears Den right there, Gabe. I'm sure to have you on. And Miles, we haven't had Miles. I'm definitely Miles. I'm sure you'd love to be on that too. We talk football, especially this year.
Yes.
And I know we're gonna be talking about the Bears in this this month with Hard Knocks. We're gonna have some episodes kind of going over those, and I'm sure those episodes are gonna be great. But Miles, I know you got to head out, but appreciate you coming on, man. And we'll have you next time, and we'll break down all the stuff that's going on in baseball, man.
Heck yeah, looking forward to the Sox game that we're all going to go to soon as well, man. And,
yes.
And, finally getting the gang out too again. I've been wanting this for a while to get into a baseball game with all my guys. So I look forward to that. You guys have a great rest of the day, man. Always love being a part of the show. Take it easy. See you all next week or next time, whatever.
Yeah. See you, Miles. All right. So Gabe, and we have just one more topic to cover when it comes to the Chicago sports teams, and it's one of the bigger ones. I mean, we all expected, not necessarily expected, but we thought maybe that Crochet would be gone, Robert Jr. maybe not, and of course we all know the deals that were made and the deals that weren't now, and they traded Fetty, they traded Tommy Pham, they traded away Kopech, they traded away Paul DeJong. But Crochet and Robert Jr. stay. So I just want to get your thoughts on the deadline, because a lot of White Sox, there's a lot of mixed emotions. There's either White Sox fans that don't think they did enough. There's White Sox fans that think that they're happy because Crochet stayed and Robert Jr. stayed. And in my opinion, I did, because we haven't been also and on top of that too, we haven't even talked about the fact that we might have mentioned a little bit about the contract thing, but the fact that the whole thing with Crochet requesting an extension after he gets traded, that might have hindered, his chances of getting traded. But yeah, what are your thoughts overall on the trade deadline that the White Sox had in 2024?
It didn't live up to the hype that I think a lot of fans wanted it to, just due to the fact that they didn't get the blockbuster acquisitions that they thought they would. But when you look at the market as a whole, there weren't a lot of top level prospect bats that were available in these returns. And I'm actually quite happy that the White Sox held on to Garrett Crochet and Luis Robert Jr. after seeing the return that they got for Erick Fedde. You know, I don't mind. I didn't mind them trading Erick Fedde. I knew Erick Fedde was as good as gone. I thought Erick Fedde alone maybe could have netted them a little bit more than what they got. But I don't have an issue necessarily with the trade that they made. The only issue that I had is that I felt like it was a player short, maybe a player too short, and that they didn't get a player from St. Louis in that 3-team trade that they made. That was the problem. And I think the reason why a lot of the fans aren't pleased with it is because the two prospects that they got back outside of Miguel Vargas, who's going to be an everyday player for the rest of the season for the White Sox going forward, those guys are in low A. And those guys are under the age of 21. And it's going to be a while. It's going to take them guys maybe 3 to 3.5 years, if not 4 years, to get called up to the show if their talents prove that they're ready and adequate enough to be up here. So I all in all, when I look at the trade deadline, I give them a B- or a C grade. Only reason why I kind of elevated to a B- potentially is because they did get a quality return in the Tanner Banks trade to be able to get a top 15 prospect from the Phillies. I think that was a good move and a smart deal. And then to be able to offload Eloy Jimenez contract where you're not paying for him to go to Baltimore. I think that's a great move for several reasons. And the main reason being is due to the fact that you don't have to worry about buying him out of his contract in an offseason where every dollar that you have is going to be extremely significant because it must go towards improving your roster and building an offense that's adequate enough for this fan base to watch over the next several years as they seek to elevate from the bottom of the bottom in the American League to trying to become a legitimate player again in the Central Division. So I thought it was a average deadline, but I'm not someone that thinks you have to get rid of your guys at the deadline, especially when with Garrett Crochet, you can max this out and seek to make a move in the winter meetings if you're unable to agree to an extension.
Yeah, and that can only boost his at least with his, the numbers could have boosted trade package even too, because how much of control he has in general and just what he has to give on the field. But no, yeah, you're right. And yeah, did I mention the Eloy Jimenez and the Tanner Banks one, which the Tanner Banks the minor one. Eloy Jimenez probably one of the most interesting trades of the deadline for Chicago, just because of the fact that you're kind of thinking, you're like, what are the Orioles doing here? What are the White Sox doing here? Why did they get rid of them? But I think it was mentioned too that it was more of a salary dump for the White Sox when it comes to that and how much they were paying him and all that. But how did you feel about that deal in particular? And then also just maybe was there not necessarily Crochet or Robert, but was there a deal maybe that you thought someone else would be on the move? Like we talked about a little bit about maybe Gavin Sheets could be a guy that a team could be interested if they needed a left-handed bat that could, get the gap when he's on. Anything like that, or any other deal that you were surprised didn't happen?
I was shocked that Chris Flexen didn't get moved.
Yeah, I agree.
And for what the Baltimore Orioles paid in order to acquire the services of a Trevor Rogers. I was very shocked that Chris Flexen did get moved. I didn't think Chris Flexen would net back a franchise 100 prospect, but I would have loved to have seen what he could have netted, because I think he could have helped some teams. Even if it wasn't in a starter role, he could have been a middle inning relief guy. Yep. That could spot you a couple innings here and there in the postseason. I was shocked nobody wanted him. Gavin Sheets, I think he kind of cratered his value a little bit by the way in which he was performing at the plate. So I wasn't too surprised, even though I thought early on in the year with the way that he was hitting, he could have easily been a trade chip. But outside of that, most of the guys that I thought would get moved did. Jonathan Brebbia was another guy I thought that could have got moved as well. even though he's had a rough month of July. I thought that he was a guy that could have helped a bullpen with his ability to punch out guys and whatnot, knowing how much teams value that and prioritize that. As far as the Eloy Jimenez trade, I was kind of sad as from a fan perspective because, you would have thought if I'd have told you 8 years ago that the White Sox would trade Eloy Jimenez, you would have thought that he'd had a few more accolades behind his name. You would have thought that he would have got them a guaranteed haul of something that was legit or great, but he never was able to fully live up to that promise here on the South Side due to injuries and the like. And I know a lot of fans have a lot of mixed emotions and reactions to that, as we've seen the last couple of days. But I wish him well in Baltimore. It's obvious that they're trying to, buy low and hopefully be able to sell him high if they can. But all in all, to get a AAA reliever back for Eloy Jimenez and not have to worry about buying him out in an offseason, like I said, there's going to be a very huge offseason for Chris Getz and his front office staff on 35th and Shields. You take it.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things too where, I think also the trade package that you would have imagined, 8 years ago for a guy like Eloy Jimenez being traded was way bigger than, a Trey McGuff, for example, the guy that got back in that deal. But it was a strange situation. I think also when you mentioned the with Chris Flexen, I also thought the same thing. Like he's a definition of an innings eater. Even though when he's bad, he's real bad. But the thing is, like, you don't have to put him in a situation like that. Like, let's say your team's down 6-1, the dude can eat up the rest of the game. Like, I think that's important. If you're the Yankees, you're down 6-1 in a game, you're going to be in the playoffs. What's the point of wasting, guys' arms, at times like this? So, yeah, no, I agree with that. And then also just looking at, the other guys that were traded, like Kopech, for example, he came in, struck out the side and for the Dodgers last night, and so and he was throwing 100 consistently, which I think is interesting for the way he pitched with the White Sox. I should say saw him fair amount in the 9th inning, and the way he pitched, I feel like was a little bit like he looked like he was pitching carefully, which is not a good thing, right? Because you also don't want to be like, I'm trying to be careful, because that's where I feel like that's where, a lot of pitchers have problems. And now I know it's 1 inning, so you can't make too much about it, but he looked a little more free in LA now, especially again, it was a garbage inning. I get it too, but like those type of guys, and I'm kind of interested to see how they could fix them or utilize them. But
you know why I think he looked free? Because maybe Michael Kopech is in a place where he finally knows his role and has been told what his role will be there. Michael Kopech had so much potential. And he showed flashes of that in Chicago as a starter and also as a reliever. Yeah. I don't think Michael Kopech going into 2024 actually knew what his role was. This was a guy that came into spring training preparing to be a starter and was told at the last minute or in the middle of spring training that you're not going to be a starter, you're going to be a reliever, and you're going to come out the pen and you're going to be closing games. He had never been in that position before, even though he had been a reliever a couple years ago when the Sox won the division in 2021. He was not the closer. It's different when you going into a game, a 1-run, 2-run game in the top of the ninth or the bottom of the ninth, depending if you're at home on the road, and you got to get them last 3 outs. You got to know how to keep your nerves in check, man. And Kopech was one of those guys he was played around with a lot here. I think about Reynaldo Lopez in the season that he's had in Atlanta prior to getting injured. Reynaldo Lopez, when he first started out with the White Sox, was a starter. But White Sox made him a reliever. He goes to Atlanta in free agency after he got traded to the Angels. The Angels release, he goes to the Guardians, went to Atlanta this offseason. They tell him, hey, well, you're going to be a starter. He's been balling out over there. It's about guys knowing their roles, man, and you can't play with pitchers, man. Pitchers are too fragile to play with them. Most relievers start out as starters at some point, but they work their way into that role. I think Kopech finally has a role, and I expect him to do fairly well in his role in Los Angeles. And as a White Sox fan, I don't hold any bitterness in my heart toward him doing well in Los Angeles, because that's what happens when you know your role. And I think a lot of fans need to understand that.
Yeah, you bring up a good point, because I think even like when you talk about a player like, you know, Kopech, you talk about also a player like Crochet knowing his role in 2024. And I think also that probably plays, you know, regardless of what you think of why he did what he did, which, you know, whether it was his agent, whether it was him wanting an extension, if he was traded or he wasn't pitching in the playoffs. I think it's also, it probably also, I'm just assuming here, is him not wanting to pitch out of the bullpen. Like, I think it has to do with that, because I think you even look at you know, Frank Thomas got heated on you know, the other day when talking about Crochet a little bit on the post game, talking about how, you know, he doesn't, you know, you can't put a guy like that in the bullpen when he's talked about how much he likes the 5-day you know, the 5-day routine, and there's a reason why he's pitching this well. I mean, Crochet's pitched well his whole career. It's only a few years, but he's pitched well. Like, it doesn't matter. But if he likes this role, you know, why, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing, which I understand. Because I was also, when we talked about this too before, I was an advocate of saying, like, you know, oh, the Yankees trade for him, they can use him out of the bullpen, limit his innings. And then we talked about, you know, they don't even believe in that. Like, Luis Gil's going to pitch whatever, so that's fine. But I think that, you know, obviously that's also just from a fan perspective of not even thinking about the dude's body, which I understand. Because we know what Crochet is capable of doing, and we know that he could pitch the rest of the season probably, and they are going to limit his innings. They already said he's going to limit his innings. But what are your thoughts on that? Because I think that is probably what's made the difference of, like, one, health, two, his ability of being, you know, of how good he's been this year. He's been an all-star. Like, how much do you think that played into that? Because this is obviously a player that's thinking about his future, which, you know, as we've always talked about, is way more important than anything else, is himself and his family. So it's like, you know, how do you see that situation playing out the rest of the way?
How I see it playing out the rest of the way is, I don't see him pitching any more than maybe 4 to 5 innings to start over the next month, since today is August the 1st, excuse me, as we recording it. I don't see him pitching out any more than the next month, where he's going maybe 4 to 5 innings per start. And if they want to keep it shorter, maybe 3 to 4. But I don't see him pitching no more than maybe 35 innings the rest of this year. And I think they're going to shut him down at the top of September, because they have to protect their asset. And in the midst of the time in which he shut down, I would expect for Chris Getz in the front office to potentially be talking with him about a possible extension. And if they cannot agree to that, what's going to more than likely happen is he's going to get traded during the winter meetings. Or if he doesn't get traded during the winter meetings, he's going to go into spring training, and they're going to trade him there. I don't expect Garrett Crochet to be on the roster for opening day 2025 if he is not put ink to paper on a contract extension that meets his liking or CAA Sports' liking. That's really what I believe, and I don't blame him as much as he did tank his value at the trade deadline. I don't blame him for fighting for what he believed in, because this was a guy that was not given an opportunity by Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams to start. That's all he wanted, was an opportunity. And Chris Getz gave him that opportunity. I can understand what Chris Getz may have found these comments to be a little bit hurtful. And even though as a GM, I wouldn't have put that out there, I would have worn my poker face. I can understand that, because Chris Getz is looking at it like, well, I gave you a shot to start when nobody else did. You know, don't you think you kind of owe me a little bit more respect here? But I understand. Garrett Crochet's been fighting for this for a long time. He is a starter. I don't think he should ever come out the bullpen again if he doesn't want to, with the way that he's performed. And hopefully he can continue to add on to it. People don't understand, when you pitch in the postseason before, even though you may have never won a ring, it's different. Garrett Crochet's been on that stage before. Even though he's yet to win a ring, he's been on that stage. He know what that feel like. That's a guy that came up the same year and was pitching in the wild card round. The same year he was drafted, 2020. Like, he been there. So I don't blame him one bit, because look at what happened to Matt Harvey. That's my example. Remember when Matt Harvey was on the innings limit and he went over the innings limit for the Mets when they was going to the World Series? Put his arm on the line, screwed his arm up, never got the money that he deserved because of that. Fans have to think about that.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think that's one thing, people definitely don't think about that when you look at online and the way the conversations are had and all that. And yeah, no, it's true, especially for a guy who's already had Tommy John. Like, that's even more so, right? So, but yeah, no, the White Sox offseason is going to be busy because they're going to have to figure out what they're trying to do with Luis Robert, what they're trying to do with Crochet, what they're trying to do in free agency. But in other trade deadline news, I mean, there was a bunch of stuff that happened, but nothing really that crazy. I mean, we talked about it. It was kind of underwhelming in general. I mean, Jack Flaherty going to the Dodgers was cool. The rich get richer there. I mean, they're going to be looking good now. A little more with that rotation. Even Kershaw's back and all that. So, but I did want to. The last thing I want to talk about is kind of the Orioles, because we talked about it before we came on, and just how, to be honest, the Orioles kind of ticked me off. They're one of the teams that ticked me off this deadline because they continue to trade like the Brewers. They continue to trade, like a team that, is hopeful about making the playoffs when really they're a lock. They go out there and get, Trevor Rogers. It doesn't move the needle for me. I mean, you got Corbin Burns in the rotation, but other than that, no one really scares me in the postseason. And that, it doesn't make any sense to me because you have every opportunity to deal these prospects and still have a great team. Like, you have a surplus of prospects, and depth is always important. But in this case, you're trying to win a World Series now. You don't know how long your window is going to be. And, when you're talking about, you don't ever know how long windows are going to be. You look at the Detroit Tigers, because it looks like their window with the prospects might have come and gone in the short, couple years. But the reason I'm bringing them up is because I was kind of thinking, we were talking about a little bit. First, I want to get your opinion on just the Orioles deadline. But the second thing I want to ask you about is how would you feel, and this was my idea, of if this was at the deadline, you're the Orioles GM, and the Tigers said, hey, you want Skubal? All right, you can have Skubal, but you're going to have to give me Jackson Holliday and maybe like Colton Cowles or some another like a guy that's been in the big leagues maybe. How would you feel about that deal? And would you make it? Because these are two teams that looks like they're going in opposite directions, because that's one thing. Because a lot of Tigers fans are like, why would they trade Skubal? Why would they do this and that? But at the same time, if you look at it from a bigger perspective, is they might have deemed this rebuild dead already. Like, just in the way they've seen the way they're taking their approaches, because the AL is not getting any better. The AL Central is not getting any better. You don't want to end up like the Twins and the Guardians, where they're like, just look, let's be real. Like, the Guardians and the Twins, no matter how good they are, no one takes them seriously in the playoffs. Like, it's just the truth.
That's true.
You know what I mean? It's the truth.
No one takes the Central Division serious in a playoff.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the thing is too, is it's not even without merit too. I mean, there's definitely a way much more behind that. And the Guardians are great, and they've been great all season. And I'm like, man, maybe this year might be different. But I had to see it to believe it. That's the thing. And I'm not rooting against them whatsoever. I hope that they're able to do something, with that team, especially Jose Ramirez and all that. But yeah, I don't know. It's just I think they're being. I think honestly, they feel like they're being smart about it. And a lot of people may be like, why would they trade Terry Skubal, whatever? But a lot of stuff hasn't worked out. They're hindered by the contracts and all that. But Gabe, I want your thoughts on the both teams, Orioles and Tigers, and also if you think you would make that deal.
So you asked me if I was Mike Elias, would I have made a trade for Terry Skubal that involved Jackson Holliday and who else?
Just add another prospect that's already in the big leagues, like a Kierstead or maybe like a Cowser or something. Somebody a little bit more, that they've seen already in the big leagues.
I'd have said no to that.
Okay.
If I was Mike Elias. But I tell you who I would have traded for. And I'm not just saying this because I'm a White Sox fan. I would have moved heaven and earth to have gotten Garrett Crochet.
Yep.
That's what I would have done. And I would have put on the table Kobe Mayo. I would have put Samuel Basallo on the table as the two headline guys. And I would have told Chris Getz, you can have a third prospect back that is within the middle to bottom portion of the top 30, anywhere between 15 through 30. You can have any other prospect out of that range. That's what I would have done. I wouldn't have traded Jackson Holiday because I don't believe the Orioles would do it, but I wouldn't do it because I would have viewed him as a cornerstone player. But when I look at Samuel Basallo plays catcher. He can also play first base. But with Adley Rutschman being in the fold, Samuel Basallo will never see the light of day behind home plate in Baltimore. So if he's going to play every day, his only path is first base. But then you got Ryan Mountcastle there. Now, of course, Ryan Mountcastle was in a bevy of trade rumors and whatnot. But you also have Santander, even though Santander is a free agent. Like, he got to go. So I would have made the move for Garrett Crochet. But if I was on the opposite end, if I was the Tigers GM, I would have said, you can't start a conversation with me unless if you're putting Jackson Holiday in the deal with a Samuel Basallo. I would have sought to address positional needs and acquire guys that would have provided me instant credibility as a GM in Detroit. Because with Tarek Skubal, the way I see it, the Tigers, I don't blame the Tigers for wanting to keep Skubal, because with Jackson Jobe coming up next season alongside of Reese Olson and Skubal in the mix and their rotation, they can have a three-headed monster. I can pay to get bats. I have guys like Colt Keith that are have ascended through my system and had a decent rookie year, I'd say. Riley Green has become a star in Detroit. You get a couple more bats beside those guys. Once Baez's contract is expired, are you able to get that off the books? You can have something solid there. But I do agree, like with Baltimore, they were the biggest losers of this trade deadline. It started out good with the Zach Eflin move, but they didn't get that ace. They didn't get that ace to stack the deck. Because if you get Crochet in there with Corbin Burns and Grayson Rodriguez, that's a nice three-headed monster going into October. And you're in the American League East, by the way. Can't fuck around with your food over there because the Yankees always build something solid. Boston's still in contention. You know, yeah, they've been playing bad their last 10 games, but last time I checked the stands, they're about, what, 7.5 back of first place? You know, you can make that up in a week or two with some good baseball. So, you know, I just was disappointed with Baltimore from the standpoint of they didn't make that power move. I think Baltimore should have been the team that traded for Garrett Crochet. And I stand on a death hill if I have to say it, that they need to make that move by this winter if the Sox and Crochet aren't able to agree to an extension. It's the perfect matching place, and they refuse to do business with them.
Yeah, no, I wholeheartedly agree with that because you have the prospects to do it. That's a fact. You bring in Crochet into a rotation that has Corbin Burns in there. I mean, like, what is there more on top of what you said with Grayson Rodriguez? Like, on top of that, on top of Kramer, like, it just helps everybody out, you know, and it helps you out in general.
And where you gonna play Kobe Mayo?
Yeah,
who plays third and first base? You already have Westberg there. Westberg has proven himself to be solid at third base, even though he fractured his hand and he's gonna be out for a definite period of time. He's proven himself.
Yeah.
You still not calling his kid up? Because they have Terran Vavra playing third base now. Like, this kid is ready. And you're not calling him up. You got Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson. Like, somebody isn't going to be able to play in that infield.
Yeah.
So you got to let somebody go. Someone must go. No one's interested in Jorge. No disrespect. But, like, no one's interested in Jorge Mateo as a headline player in it.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you look at the way they've done business, it's like you don't, like I said, you don't know how long your window is. You don't know.
And you also don't know how fate can be on your side.
Yeah.
Because let's say hypothetically next season, the Yankees get off to a red hot start and Adley Rutschman is down for several weeks. The heartbeat of your team. What you gonna do? If you ain't making a move, what you gonna do? And then let's say you 10 games back by June 1st. Yeah, you still got a lot of season left, but it ain't no guarantee you gonna overcome that deficit of that hole you in. And that's why I always say when teams like that don't win, don't ask me to feel sorry for them because they didn't make the move. And in the division that they play in, they act like success is guaranteed when it is not. Like I keep hearing this stuff. Well, we won 100+ games last year. So you got beat by Texas too. You got swept. You haven't won a playoff game since what? 2014, I want to say.
Since Manny Machado was there.
Yeah, Manny Machado, 2014.
Adam Jones was playing.
Come on, man. Nelson Cruz and them boys. Chris Davis. Yeah. Like, if you want to build something to make these fans come to Camden Yards, you got to put your big boy pants on and make a move. And I know Mike Elias, who is a prospect hoarder, has the ability to do it because he did it in Houston with Justin Verlander when he was in the front office with Jeff Luhnow.
Yep. And then, it's just, look, and the thing is, you're going to see the results of this in October. That's all it is. Like, you just have to wait and see of what you did and didn't do. Not only this season, but the season before is, you're going to see the results. Like they say, ball don't lie. In this case, in baseball, it's particularly in baseball, you cannot survive in October without the right amount of pitching.
And you can't survive taking a lottery chance on bats if those bats don't perform.
Yeah.
Because they just optioned Heston Kjerstad to AAA, who was one of their top prospects and one of Major League Baseball's top prospects. You option them back after not giving them enough chances to get at-bats.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're putting your hope and faith in Eloy Jimenez and Ryan O'Hearn. Ryan O'Hearn has been good, don't get me wrong, but he's not a long-term piece. Eloy Jimenez, not a long-term piece. These guys have to hit for you. And then the best ability that you have in baseball is what? Your availability.
Yep.
And Eloy, as much as I like Eloy as a person, Eloy availability has not been there the last several years. How are you going to make that work? I think we know what's going to happen. I just think we're in denial. If we're wrong, we're only wrong because guys that they gambled on showed up and showed. But you need another anchor, especially when your two best pitchers over the last 5 to 7 years are set to hit the market. And John Means and Burns. And Corbin Burns, like that. Those guys, and nobody is even giving you a chance to sign Corbin Burns. That's the crazy part. You don't spend money. If I'm Dave Ruberstein, I'm taking what I'm hearing, and I'm like, okay, they want to think that we're the old Orioles. We need to show them that we're the new Orioles. We're gonna spend some money, a little bit, and we gotta let some of these prospects go because they can't all be a part of this team for the next 10 years. They just can't.
Yeah, and you look at the approach that they're taking right now, you're thinking this looks like the old regime, right? Like the way so that's the thing they have to debunk is, the fact that they're the same as the last regime. So it's gonna be fascinating to see how the AL shapes out, especially with teams like that and what happens, because with the wild card, you never know, man. We're probably talking about it. We're not even talking about a team right now. It's probably gonna be in the ALCS or something. So you never know.
And the best of 3 series too.
Best of 3 series.
Because you don't always lose to the team that was better than you. You just might lose to the team that was better than you on that day, which is really all that matters. Because how many years you've been watching baseball can you honestly say that the best team in the regular season or the best team all season actually won the World Series? It ain't like the NBA where we just saw the Boston Celtics, an all-time great team, win the Larry O'Brien trophy that we all expected to coming into the season.
Yeah, it's got to be less than a handful of times that I've been watching baseball since 2006.
That's what I'm saying.
It's got to be. Yeah, it does not always happen. So that's why when even in 2016 when the Cubs were the best team in baseball, I was like a little bit like not necessarily nervous, but I was like, ooh, it might not happen because they're the best team. They got the target on their back, and damn well they were almost sent home by the Giants if things didn't happen. And if the Giants had a bullpen, Well, first of all, if they had a bullpen, they might not even be in that situation. But if they were in the bullpen, if they had a bullpen, then the Cubs might not have made it out of the LDS. But anyways, all right. Well, I think that should do it for this edition of the At Bat Podcast. I want to thank all my guests. Of course, Mike Hughes. I want to thank Miles Porter as well. I want to thank Gabe Wilkins. You can check him out on the State of Gabe podcast. I want to thank everyone for watching, as well as watching all our other content like the Bears Den. Check out Sean and Maya as well with our boy Sean Sierra. The Bears Den will come back soon, though, of course, because, like I said, this month with Hard Knocks and all that, we'll bring that out a lot more to recap all the episodes, as well as check out Lakina and Sid on Second City Sports. So thank you for watching the At Bat Podcast. For Saul Rodriguez, Gabe Wilkins. Everyone have a good one.